The town square had never felt so small. Lila Harper stood in the center of it, surrounded by eyes that didn't just look, they judged. Whispers moved like poison through the crowd, growing louder with every passing second. She kept her chin lifted, but her hands trembled at her sides. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. She had come to town for work, for a fresh start. Instead, she had become a spectacle. "Go on," one man sneered from the edge of the crowd. "Tell them what you did." Lila swallowed hard. "I didn't do anything," she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. "You expect us to believe that?" Another voice called out. Laughter followed, not kind laughter, but the sharp, cutting kind that left marks you couldn't see. The accusation had spread fast. A missing sum of money, a stranger in town, a woman with no one to defend her. It had been enough, no proof needed, just suspicion and a crowd eager for something to tear apart. The town marshal stood nearby, arms crossed, saying nothing. His silence spoke louder than the accusations. He wasn't going to help her. No one was. Lila's eyes scanned the crowd, searching for even one face that didn't look at her like she was already guilty. She found none. Her chest tightened. The weight of it all pressed down on her, not just the shame but the loneliness. This was what it felt like to stand alone against the world. "Last chance," the man in front of her said, stepping closer. "Confess, and maybe we'll show mercy." Lila met his gaze, something fierce flickering in her eyes despite the fear. "I won't confess to something I didn't do." The man's expression hardened. "Then you leave," he said, "right now. This town doesn't want you." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Lila felt the ground beneath her shift, not physically, but in the way everything she had hoped for in this place collapsed all at once. She nodded slowly. If they wanted her gone, she would go, but she would leave with her dignity intact. She turned, taking a step toward the edge of the square, and then a voice cut through the noise, calm, deep, and unshaken. "She's not going anywhere." The crowd fell silent. Lila stopped, her breath catching as she turned back. The man stepped forward from the edge of the gathering, tall, broad-shouldered, dust clinging to his coat like he had just ridden in from miles away. His presence alone was enough to quiet the whispers, but it was his eyes that held them steady, cold, focused, unafraid. "That's not your decision," the first man snapped. The stranger didn't raise his voice. "It is now." He stepped beside Lila, placing himself between her and the crowd without even looking at her directly. His stance was simple, but unmovable. "And who do you think you are?" someone demanded. The man's gaze swept across them slowly. "Name's Cole Turner," he said, "and she's under my protection." The words landed like a shockwave. A murmur spread again, but this time it wasn't laughter. It was uncertainty. Cole Turner wasn't just another traveler. His name carried weight, not because he talked loudly, but because he didn't need to. People knew men like him didn't make empty claims. The man who had been leading the accusations hesitated, then scoffed. "You don't know what she's done." Cole didn't even glance at Lila. "I know enough," he replied quietly. "I know a crowd doesn't make truth." The silence that followed was heavier than before. The marshal shifted slightly, but still said nothing. Cole's eyes moved to him briefly, just long enough to make a point. The marshal looked away. That was answer enough. Cole turned slightly toward Lila, his voice lower now. "You all right?" She nodded, though her voice didn't come out right away. I didn't ask for this," she said softly. "I know," he replied. And for some reason, those two words meant more than anything else anyone had said that day. He didn't question her. He didn't doubt her. He simply believed her. Cole stepped forward again, facing the crowd. "If anyone's got proof, speak now," he said. No one did. The silence stretched. A few people shifted uncomfortably. The confidence that had filled the square just minutes ago began to crumble. Cole nodded once. That's what I thought. He turned back to Lila. Come on, he said simply. She hesitated only for a second before following him. The crowd parted, not willingly, but because something about him made them step aside. As they walked away, the whispers returned, but quieter now, uncertain. Lila kept her eyes forward, her heart still racing. She didn't speak until they were clear of the square. Why did you do that? She asked finally. Cole didn't slow his pace. Because it needed doing, he said. She frowned slightly. You don't even know me. He glanced at her briefly. Didn't seem like they did either. She let out a small breath, something between a laugh and a sigh. They reached the edge of town, where his horse was tied. He untied it, then looked at her. You got somewhere to go? Lila shook her head. Not anymore. He nodded, as if that confirmed something he had already decided. Then you do now, he said. She blinked. What? Cole adjusted the saddle, then gestured toward the open land beyond town. My place isn't close, but it's quiet, and no one there cares about rumors. Lila hesitated. The offer felt sudden, but so had everything else today. Why would you trust me? She asked. He met her gaze, steady and certain. Because someone should. The simplicity of his answer left no room for doubt. Lila looked back toward the town, the place that had turned on her without question, then back at the man who had stepped in without hesitation. She took a slow breath. All right, she said. Cole gave a small nod, then helped her onto the horse before climbing up behind her. As they rode away, the town grew smaller behind them, its noise fading into the distance. Lila didn't know what waited ahead. She didn't know who Cole Turner really was, but she knew one thing for certain. The moment he stepped into that square and claimed her under his protection, everything had changed, and whatever came next would change even more. The ride lasted longer than Lila expected. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in deep shades of orange and fading gold, while the open land stretched endlessly ahead. Cole didn't speak much, and strangely that silence didn't feel uncomfortable. It felt safe. For the first time since the chaos in town, her thoughts began to settle. The tightness in her chest slowly loosened. She found herself watching the way he guided the horse, steady, controlled, never rushed. Everything about him felt certain, like a man who didn't second-guess his decisions. By the time they reached the ranch, night had already begun to fall. A small cabin stood at the center of the land, with a barn off to the side and fences stretching into the darkness. It wasn't large, it wasn't grand, but it felt real. Cole helped her down without a word, his movements careful but distant, as if he respected the space between them. You can stay inside, he said. There's food, water. I'll take care of the horse. Lila nodded, stepping toward the cabin. She paused at the doorway, her hand resting on the frame for a moment before stepping inside. The warmth hit her immediately, not just from the fire, but from the quiet. The kind of quiet that didn't judge. She moved slowly, taking in the simple space. A table, a bed, a few shelves. Everything had a place, nothing wasted, no excess. Cole entered a few minutes later, closing the door behind him. He set his hat down and glanced at her briefly. You should eat, he said. She hesitated. What about you? I will. He moved toward the stove, preparing something simple without asking questions, without making conversation that wasn't needed. Lila sat down, still unsure how to exist in a place where no one was watching her, waiting for her to fail. That night she slept lightly, but not because she was afraid, because she wasn't used to feeling safe. Morning came quietly. The sunlight filtered through the window, soft and steady. Lila stepped outside and found Cole already working, repairing a section of fence. He looked up briefly. You slept? She nodded. Better than I expected. He gave a small nod, then returned to his work. There was no pressure to talk, no demand for explanation. Days passed like that, simple, steady. Lila began helping where she could, cleaning, cooking, carrying water. At first, she waited for mistakes, for disappointment, for the moment he would question her the way everyone else had. But it never came. Cole never asked about the accusations. He never looked at her with doubt. He treated her like someone who belonged there, not someone who had to prove it. One afternoon, as they worked side by side, Lila finally spoke. "They think I stole from them," she said quietly. Cole didn't stop working. "I figured." She frowned slightly. "And you don't care?" He looked at her then, his gaze steady. "Do you?" The question caught her off guard. "No," she said. "Because I didn't." He nodded once. "Then that's enough." Lila stared at him, something deep inside her shifting again. "It's not enough for them," she whispered. "It doesn't have to be," he replied simply. The words settled into her, heavier than she expected. For the first time, she realized something she hadn't before. She didn't need everyone to believe her. She just needed one person who did. Time moved forward. The ranch became more than just a place to stay. It became something she hadn't had in a long time, a place to breathe. She laughed once, just once at first, when Cole said something unexpectedly dry. He didn't react much, but she noticed the slight shift in his expression. And slowly, piece by piece, the weight she carried began to lift. Until one afternoon the past came back. Riders appeared on the horizon, 2 of them, from town. Lila saw them first. Her body tensed instantly, fear rushing back like it had never left. "Cole," she said quietly. He followed her gaze. His expression didn't change, but something in his posture did, sharper, more alert. "Inside," he said. She shook her head. "No, I'm done hiding." He studied her for a moment, then gave a small nod. The riders approached quickly, stopping just outside the fence. The same man from the square stepped forward, his expression tight. "We're not done with this," he called out. Cole stepped forward, calm as ever. "You should be." The man ignored him, his eyes locked on Lila. "We found the money," he said. Her breath caught. "What?" He hesitated, then said reluctantly, "It wasn't you." Silence fell. Lila felt the words hit her, but not the way she expected. There was no relief, not really, just a quiet emptiness. "Then why are you here?" she asked. The man shifted uncomfortably. "To make it right." Lila looked at him, her expression steady. "You already made your choice," she said, "and it wasn't me." The man didn't argue. He couldn't. Cole remained silent beside her, his presence steady, unshaken. After a moment, the riders turned and left, this time without threats, without pride, just quiet retreat. As the dust settled, Lila let out a slow breath. She didn't feel broken anymore. She didn't feel small. She turned to Cole. "It's over," she said. He nodded. "It is." There was a pause, then she added softly, "You didn't have to do all this." He looked at her. "Yeah," he said, "I did." She studied him, understanding finally settling in. Not just what he had done, but why. He hadn't saved her. He had stood beside her, and that made all the difference. As the sun dipped low once again, casting long shadows across the ranch, Lila stood beside him, not as someone under protection, but as someone who had found her place. And this time, no one could take it away.